Yo, what's up? This is an updated 7.2.5 Legion Fire Mage PvP guide, and it'll probably carry on over to 7.3 as well, unless like huge changes occur, which I don't think they are, so it'll still be relevant. I'm gonna talk about the basic stuff like your build, your rotations, viable comps, races, and if you have more questions, ask in the comments, and I will cover them. Also, this is a different background, it's not the same little room I was in before with my posters. I actually just recently moved into a new apartment. I'm living alone now. Moved out of my parents' house, and I'll be full-time streaming and making YouTube videos from here for the next year. And yeah, hopefully it goes well. Thank you for watching, making this possible. Anyways, fire mages. You guys are probably wondering how to play them or if they're even good in PvP. So lately I've been playing a lot of alts on stream. I've kind of become an altaholic. So I'm playing my rogue, my mage, now my shadow priest, and I just dinged a windwalker to 110 earlier today. So I'll be playing that. So I have a lot of classes. I'm still doing pretty good. I'm almost 2500. I was like 2550 MMR on my fire mage, which is actually pretty good right now considering the inflation is not that high. I've played about like 500 games. Fire mages are okay. They're in a good, like, okay spot. They're good with certain clumps, but they're very limited with what they can play with. So this is the three different specs, Frost, Arcane, and Fire. Frost is very bursty and has a lot of control with their slows and roots. They're really good against melee classes. Arcane is kind of a gimmicky spec, but it has a lot of burst and crazy mobility. When you have like arcane power up with your artifact ability and triple missile stacks with barrage, they're all stacked up. It's just incredible. Arcane is really fun. I've been actually playing Frost a little bit as well. I know I used to only play Fire, but I'm trying to open up my skill set a little bit more lately and just get good at multiple specs and classes. And then lastly, Fire. Fire is not as bursty as Arcane and Frost, unfortunately, but they're like the tankiest out of them all. Because you have Cauterize, for example. When you're about to die, you'll proc and get a big heal. You have Cauterizing Blink, so every time you blink, you get a little bit of a hot on yourself as well. You have Dragon's Breath to peel. So their survivability is the best out of all three, I would say. Less burst, but really good consistent pressure. With all your Phoenix Flame Fire Blast stacks, if you use them correctly, you have consistent Pyroblast. You're just spamming Pyroblast all day on your target. And especially if you have Combust up too, it's just guaranteed crits. You're just chunking. You're chunking. It's very consistent damage. And once again, with the Dragon's Breath coming out, you have that extra CC, which comes in clutch at times. So yeah, those are the differences in the specs. So everyone always asks me, what spec should I play? So that's my answer to you. Take what I told you about like the different pros and cons and choose whatever you feel like would fit your playstyle. One thing about Arcane though is that there's only one school aside from Frost Nova. So if you get locked out, like you literally sit there doing nothing. Whereas as Fire, if I get kicked on my Fireball, for example, then I can spam cast Polymorph or even Ring. But yeah, Fire is a fun spec. It's just, in my opinion, it doesn't take as much skill to play than it did back in Mop or Kata, for example. It's very easy to pick up. You just spam instants. There's a lot of very little casting compared to Arcane and Frost. Very little casting. I feel like, in my opinion, it's like the most beginner-friendly spec out of all three. But I mean, it's still fun. So if you're interested in playing it, I will start the guide now. I'm gonna go over races first. So obviously you have Horde and Alliance side. Right now, as you may have noticed, I am a Blood Elf, back to female, not male anymore. Blood Elf is really good because of the Arcane Torrent, Belf Silence. I believe it's on like a 1.5 minute cooldown, and it silences everything around you for 2 seconds, which is insane because mages don't have blanket silences anymore, right? So being able to have that AoE silence to help you score kills is pretty crazy. Or like you can like triple poly the healer into a breath into a Belf, and that has a very long CC chain. So Belf is good for the offensive playstyle mage. Like I said, it's helped me score so many kills in the arenas. Like, it's just crazy. Aside from Blood Elf, Orc is really good as well. Orcs, they don't have the silence, but they have the Orc passive ratio, which makes them sit less stuns. And if you combo that up with Relentless, you're just like, the stuns on you are super, super short. So if you're fighting like a rogue team or a Windwalker team, your survivability is a lot higher. So Fire Mage, Orc Fire Mage would be pretty crazy, tanky, and all that. So I'd recommend Orc for that. So if you're Horde, Orc if you have a defensive playstyle, and Blood Elf if you have an offensive playstyle. So that's up to you. They're both really good, and they're both tier 1. It just depends what you prefer. And then if you're Alliance, probably Human is the best because you have that extra trinket to get yourself out of stuns, which is both offensive and mostly defensive. So Human for sure. And then maybe you could run like Night Elf because the Shadow Meld can come in clutch as well. In WoD, I played Night Elf, which is pretty fun. So once again, races for Horde would be Orc, Blood Elf, and for Alliance, Human, and Night Elf, just depending on your playstyle. Okay, talents. Let's see. So first off, Pyromaniac in the first tier. It's the most consistent build for the first tier because, you know, you can get the random extra Pyroblasts. Next up, Shimmer, so you get the 2 blinks. It makes it that so that you can't blink out of stuns, but it's really good. I mean, having 2, you can blink while casting with Shimmer too, so you can like land polys from like across the map and like across pillars. If you start casting a poly and the healer lands, you can like blink as it finishes casting and still land it. So it's really good for that and for kiting. Encounter flow for more damage. More reliable on yourself rather than having like mirror images or having to cast Rune of Power. Flame On for the extra Fire Blast stack. And then Ring of Frost is really good for the AoE CC and also landing CC on like Resto Druids because if they're not in human form, they're immune to polymorphs, so having the ring is really good. Or like even like versus Cleaves, triple breath into triple ring is like an insane CC. On the level 90 tier, this one's hard to say. I know my camera's covering it, let me hide it. So we have Living Bomb and Unstable Magic. Single target wise and overall damage wise, Unstable Magic is better because every time you cast a fireball, it has a 25% chance to explode and on AoE, and it does 50% additional damage. So right there, you see that explosion right there? 25% chance for your fireball to explode and do 50% more damage, which is pretty crazy. It's really good. But the thing is, boom, it explodes and hits everything around that target. And a big problem in arenas is if, say, like this is the healer and you have him sheeped up, he's CC'd, and then this is your kill target and he's stunned, what will happen is if it procs, boom, it'll break your CC on the healer and it stops you from actually landing the kill. And it's RNG. It either happens sometimes or it doesn't. So it's just very unreliable. Sure, once again, the damage is the best from this, but when it breaks your CCs and your CCs are needed to land kills, that's really bad. So I just take Living Bomb instead for the most part, because Living Bomb, although once it explodes, it's AoE as well, you can actually still control the explosion. You know, you can use it whenever you want, and if you land a sheep, you just don't press Living Bomb. You just use your other abilities like Fireball, Fire Blast, and Pyroblast. So that's why Living Bomb is better. Although it's less damage, it does not break CC. I guess for things like RBGs or regular battlegrounds or 1v1 duels, Unstable Magic would be better. But I'm talking strictly for arenas here. And then lastly, we use Meteor. Meteor is a 45-second cooldown, and it does really high damage, especially if you have Combust up for the guaranteed crit. Whenever you're playing arena, if you're playing like with a rogue, they'll stun the kill target, and then you can drop a Meteor on top, which is really good. Be careful though when you aim your Meteor. Say once again, this is like your sheeped healer. Wait for the dot to fall off. You don't want to be like dropping the Meteor right on top of the kill target, because if it drops, it'll actually break your poly. So you're gonna have to like drop it at an angle like this. Even if you drop it like this on the last little bit of the radius, it'll still hit the target. So you gotta practice aiming your Meteor in correct angles. And then with honor talents, I use the Trinket Gladiator's Medallion. Once again, if you're Orc, you can run Relentless for 20% reduced CC on yourself. So with that and the orc racial, you just like never sit stuns. So you become really slippery. But if you're a blood elf, I feel like it's better to have a trinket. Mind quickness for the extra haste. And then prismatic cloak. What this does is after you blink, after you shimmer, you take 50% less magical damage. So say like a Boomy is about to full moon you, and it's like just about to go off, you can blink it, and then when it lands, boom, you take 50% less damage, or like a chaos bolt, so you can time it. It used to actually immune the whole spell, but they nerfed that this patch. Versus melee cleaves or things that don't do magical damage, you should probably take Netherwind armor. This just reduces the chance you suffer a crit strike by 15%, so you become, once again, even more tankier. So versus cleaves and melees, take Netherwind armor, and versus casters, you take prismatic cloak. Next up, temporal shield. I take this 99% of the time. You know, you pop it, and all the damage you take within the 6-second duration gets healed back to you instantly. You can't cancel it anymore, but it's still really good. Versus dot cleaves, like say LSD, like a lock Boomy team, where it's all dots, you can take dampened magic because it reduces all magical dots on you for 20%. So that makes you just tankier in general, but you do lose temporal shield. And then sometimes versus resto druids, I like to take kleptomania. Say like you land a sheep on the resto druid, and then the kill target has a full row of hots. You can instantly spell steal all the hots in one button, but it does have a 30-second cooldown. So then you can instantly purge all the hots and just pump him and force his like ice block or whatever. So it's good to use offensively, but then once again you lose temporal shield, so that's not good. Next up, I take Tinder. Tinder is the best because you can like drop a meteor and then fast cast a fireball with Tinder and do a crazy combo as the meteor lands, so it's like perfectly timed, and without it you can't do that. And plus it makes your fireball do more damage too. So if you like combust, meteor, and then fast cast fireball with Tinder, and then Phoenix Flames, Pyro, Fireball, Pyro. That's a big shatter right there. That's like probably your biggest damage, your biggest burst setup. And then lastly, I take Flame Canyon. What it does is when you stand still in combat for 2 seconds, your maximum health, your damage done, and the range of your ability stacks by 3% and 3 yards every stack. And it stacks up to 5. So if you stand still in combat for a few seconds and you let it stack up, you pretty much get 15% more HP, 15% more damage, and 15 more yards on all your abilities, which is crazy. So say you have that 15% more HP, you can actually use like Cauterizing Blink, which heals you for 20% of all your health when you blink. It actually works with the Flame Canyon, so it even heals you more. And also, if you have it stacked up to full, you can like cast polys from across the map. Because polymorph is what, 40 yards? Okay, it's 30 yards. With the Flame Cannon stacked to max, it becomes 45 yards. So you can start casting it from across the map. And even if they line you, right as the poly's done casting, you can like double blink and still land it behind the pillar. It's just insane. It's insane what you can do with it. Sometimes I'll run Greater Pyroblast in like regular battlegrounds or RBGs. But in the arenas, especially at high ratings, you most likely won't get it off unless you're playing at really low rating, like 1700 and lower. So I wouldn't recommend it if you're trying to play at a higher rating. But I mean, if you're just messing around, it's a very fun talent for sure. But yeah, that's your talents right there. What else can I go over? Stats doesn't really matter because they get scaled instantly in the arenas anyways. But obviously, no matter what, you go for crit and then haste and mastery, like it always is if you're trying to like do world PvP. Just go for as high item level, highest item level as you can. Pretty much in the arenas, every 10 item levels you get 1% stats on everything. So just aim for high item level and don't worry about the specific stats if you're doing instance PvP. Let's see, the rotation. So this is how it goes down. When I enter an arena, your main goal is to pump out as many Pyroblasts as possible because that's your main source of damage. It doesn't do that much damage, but like per Pyroblast, but when you're pumping them left and right nonstop, it adds up. It adds up. So when you get in there, you want to get your heating up. Right there, when you crit, you get a heating up. And if you crit twice in a row, you get that hot streak. It's always been like that. That's a guaranteed Pyroblast. So instead of going and casting, You don't have to cast. You can just use. Okay, you have Phoenix Flames and Fire Blast. They're both instant casts and both guaranteed crit. So what I do is I go in there and I open with Phoenix Flame and Fire Blast at the same time. Boom, and already instantly you get a hot streak like that. The thing about Fire Blast is it's not on a global cooldown, so you can actually Phoenix Flames and Fire Blast at the same time. So once again, Phoenix and Fire Blast, boom, you get a proc. And then you're just going to spam Pyro Blast like that. Boom, you chuck your Pyro Blast. If it doesn't crit, you want to get another double crit. Once again, chuck your Pyro Blast. And if it does crit, then you can just Fire Blast. And then you have an instant. So pretty much your goal is to get as many crits as you can in a row. If you pop your Combustion, it gives you guaranteed crit, 100% crit for 14 seconds if you have your artifact maxed out. It's usually 10 seconds, but with pre-ignite you get 14 seconds. But yeah, that's basically your opening rotation. If you're going to be bursting, you're going to pop your Combust and Meteor and spam as many Pyroblasts as you can. So here we go. Say this is the kill target and you're playing with a rogue and he cheap shots the kill target for you. What you're going to do is you're going to be running Tinder. So you're going to Combust, drop the Meteor, fast cast Fireball, instant Pyroblast, Pyroblast again, then Fireblast, Pyroblast, Fireblast, Pyroblast, Phoenix Flames, Pyroblast, Fireblast, Pyroblast. So you have guaranteed crits, so your Pyroblast will always crit. So what you do is you have the half heating up, and you're going to fill it up with either guaranteed Phoenix Flames or Fireblast to get the guaranteed. So it doesn't really matter which one you use in the order when it comes to Fire Blast or Phoenix. You just want to use whatever you have. But a lot of times it's better to use Fire Blast because it's off a global cooldown, so you can actually spam the Pyro Blast faster. But Phoenix Flames does more damage than Fire Blast, and it spreads to nearby targets. You really want to be careful with Phoenix Flames though in the arena, because if the healer is CC'd and the kill target's stacked up and you press your Phoenix Flames, it's going to break the nearby CC. So you don't want to press Phoenix Flames when the healer and the kill target stacked up and the healer is sitting a polymorph, for example. So that's very important. Then in between setups, when you're not bursting and you run out of stacks on your Phoenix Flames and Fire Blast, you're just going to be pretty much pumping your fireballs. That's your filler. And then if you do get a crit, you can just use a quick Fire Blast. But if you're waiting and you're about to go and do a big burst setup, you want to make sure you have some stacks available so you can do your guaranteed crit damages. And then when you're kiting, you can use Scorch as well, because you can use it while moving. Sometimes when you're playing defensively, what you want to do with your hot streaks, instead of using them for Pyroblast, you can actually use it to AoE Flame Strike instantly. And Flame Strike, it doesn't do that much damage, but it pretty much slows everything. So say there's like a melee cleave training you, what you're going to be doing is like flame striking them, you know, kiting with Scorch, keep slowing them with flame strike, keep kiting. You know, if they reach you, then you blink, kite them, and then start flame striking again. So flame strike is a great way to kite. And when they finally connect to you and you have like no temporal shield or blink stacks left, you can Dragon's Breath them, you know, and continue kiting. But yeah, in the arenas, you pretty much always, when you are ready to go offensive, you want to go for a sheep on the healer with either Dragon's Breath, or if you play with the Pally, you can like Hodge him first, or if you play with the Warrior, you can fear them and then you poly off. But yeah, that's pretty much your damage rotation. And then in between your setups, you can actually use your filler Living Bomb as well, just to pad meters. It doesn't do that much damage, but just when you're like not doing anything. What else is there? Now, there's a lot of things you could do in the arenas, but it's kind of hard to explain outside of the arena. I might do a more specific arena guide later. But I'll go over comps. So the best comps you can play as a Fire Mage right now is very limited. Like say if you're playing RMP, it's definitely better with a Frost Mage because of the controlled burst. You have a lot more damage. Fire lacks the execution. So what I've played is Fire W and Pal. So you play with an Arms Warrior and a Holy Pally. And that's a really good comp for Fire Mages because the Holy Pally can keep you offensive with sacks and bops. And not only that, but Hodges start off your CC chains. Because it's hard to just open and land a poly randomly. So it's good when the healer Hodges the enemy healer and then you can sheep off of it. Or the Warrior can start off the CC chain by fearing the healer and then you try to cast a poly off. But if you get interrupted, then the healer can Hodge and then you can sheep off that. So it gives you a lot of room for error. And plus, Warriors do a lot of consistent damage, and Fire Mages do as well, so they go really well together. You're just pumping Pyroblast while he's just chopping away at the kill target. And then another good comp is Windwalker Fire Mage Holy Pally. Windwalkers do crazy setup damage. So Windwalkers have the leg sweep and Fist of Fury stuns when they go hard on the kill target. So when they leg sweep, it gives you a chance to drop a meteor on top of the sweep stun, and then the Pally can go in for a Hodge, or you can go in for like a Breath Sheep on the healer, and they synergize very well. Windwalkers have pretty decent consistent damage, and their setup is just unbelievable. So yeah, that's probably, those two are the best comps for Fire Mages. There aren't that many other comps that I've seen Fire Mages run successfully. I mean, when you're like playing with the Resto Shaman, I feel like it's better if you play Arcane or Frost. But yeah, those are probably the best two that you should try out. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, with AP, you just go for the 40 AK as fast as possible. There's no certain order you get the talents. You fill it up so quickly now with 40 AK. But I would recommend you always go for the more damage dealing first. So like the increased damage on Pyroblast, because obviously that's your main source of damage. Reducing cast time of Fireball is good too with Tinder. Damage of Fireblast is good. Increased damage Fireball. But if you're filling it up for the first time, you want to go for Phoenix Reborn as fast as possible down here. Yeah, Phoenix Reborn and Phoenix Flames. But I think you start with Phoenix Flames. I can't remember. It's been so long. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions on Fire Mages, feel free to ask down in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If the guide helped you out, please leave a thumbs up. And once again, I'm streaming full-time on Twitch, so come by and watch me sometime. I'm streaming pretty much every day. And if you're watching me, I might be playing Rogue or Shadow Priest or Windwalker. I'm not always playing Fire Mage anymore. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully it helped. Maybe if I get Glad on Rogue this season, which the season will be ending soon, if I get Glad on Rogue, then I'll make a Rogue guide as well, a sub-Rogue guide. But yeah, keep running shit, guys. See you soon.